everybody. Welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we have Sarada Chiravulu, and we're talking about her book, Home at Last. And we're going to be talking about her path towards enlightenment. So, no small task. All right, so welcome, Sarada.
Thank you, CJ.
Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about how you're defining enlightenment.
I would define it as when one actually taps into that finest fabric of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and feel that oneness of existence,
Mm.
unification of everything, and feel that bliss and that quietude of universal consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I would say you're enlightened. You tapped into that and reclaimed your divinity with the universal consciousness.
Mm.
That's what I call enlightenment.
And what is it? I know these are going to sound like ridiculous questions, but what does it feel like when in this conversation, do you feel like you're still maintaining your divinity and one with consciousness even while we're interacting and talking?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like it doesn't mean like you're always there. You're always, kind of integrating all that you experienced into your daily life as well.
Mm-hmm.
That whole that the shift in that consciousness, you live with it after that. You
Mm-hmm.
try to integrate all that into your living in this world.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it a bit difficult initially, but
Mm-hmm.
you get used to it because when once you sort of um, move from a normal limited consciousness to a higher level of perception, any number of changes and kind of it entails a lot of challenges initially,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with life in general and dealing with relationships, dealing with people,
Yeah.
because everything is had altered
Right.
permanently. Yeah, so it's going to take time, but you manage okay, and it's better and better eventually.
That's the most charitable way of describing what you've described in this book. Where it sounds like there was a lot of
A lot of it, I mean,
changes.
yeah, initially it takes time naturally. I
Yeah.
mean,
So how long so was it? I know that you said you were going through this process of change and evolution over the last 10 years when you were talking about in the book, but so let's talk about when you started. How old were your children? Where were you? Like I know you have two girls. What age were they? What were you doing? I know you were working at a pharmaceutical company. So let's talk about fast forward or fast zoom back to the past when you started this
yeah.
journey. Tell me a little bit about your life at that time.
Sure. It's a process I went through all of a sudden when I was working, and my kids were grown up already.
Uh-huh.
I would say I was in my early 50s,
Uh-huh.
you know. And most of the things I've been doing, everything normal. I mean, I was working pharmaceutical company,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a husband. I have
Mm-hmm.
two children, but
Mm-hmm.
the kids are already grown and out
So
of
the
the.
kids were in college at that point.
Yeah, they're in
Okay.
college. They're
Okay.
already out of the house
Yes.
practically. I mean, they come in and out,
Right.
but mostly it's just me and my husband. I would
Yeah.
say,
Okay.
normal life, working, coming home, this that. But suddenly, there is a drastic shift in my perception had
Mm.
taken place when I was working in pharmaceuticals.
Mm.
It's like something as if there's this deep disinclination toward life in general. You know,
Disinclination towards life?
life, like
Yeah.
it's like nothing interests you any longer.
Mm.
Thing
Mm-hmm.
drops,
Mm-hmm.
boom. Like you're not excited about anything anymore. You
Mm.
started thinking about what's life all about?
Mm.
What's this thing that we existing here, but all these thoughts start shifting,
Mm.
questions start popping up, and everything seems really um, different and
Mm.
jumps. You
Yeah.
don't feel like you want to do anything. It's almost like kind of like you're depressed, but you're not.
Right. Right.
Your eagerness and your intention and your uh, interest is toward life in general.
Right.
Divinity. Where are we? Who are we? Type
Mm-hmm.
of questions come about. So that went on for a while for me when I was working, and then I
And
uh,
just out of curiosity, because some people wonder, like, how long was the? Oh, I have this sense, like for me, I went through. My dad died. I went through a very similar kind of period, and it was probably like 2.5 years before I finally like left my job. So for you, when you're kind of you felt this sense of I'm trying to figure out life and what it all means. How long until you like launched off?
months, couple
Months.
months, I would say maybe 6 months
Yeah.
is this kind of a thing going on, but I didn't really talk about it to, to my own husband even, because I know talking didn't really, and would help me. They would say, well, maybe you're depressed, you have to go on antidepressants, or
Right.
go do this, go do that. And I didn't want any of those things. I
Right.
knew there's some kind of a transformational impact is going within me. I knew that for some reason.
Right. So you knew something was changing internally, so it's like I need to go. So you actually left. And what were the and when was your first experience with divine consciousness where you thought, "Oh, this is what it's all about. I love it." Like when did that first
No,
experience
no,
occur?
it wasn't like that. It
No?
was almost once the shift had taken place, a lot had happened. Um, During that time, I wasn't even meditating those days,
Right.
until this thing had happened. Then I was doing Reiki. I was a Reiki practitioner
Right.
due to some issues with my husband's had a heart attack, and I
Right.
was like looking into that. So that one thing led to another. So Reiki sort of made me get into meditation eventually.
Mm,
And that's when I started meditating, sitting in that quietude and loving it. And eventually it had been a habit for me to meditate.
mm-hmm.
And all these are happening when the shift had taken place.
Okay. And then what was the was there like a moment where the shift occurred where like uh like for me I've had all these kind of paranormal experiences where and they've started probably I don't know like 15 years ago and they would kind of like where I would go to sleep and I'd go into the void and it would scare the crap out of me or I would be digging in the garden and I would go to some other dimension like I've had all these kind of weirdish they would come as spontaneous moments and they would come and go but it wasn't like a progression for me it was kind of and I'm not enlightened in the way that you're defining I'm not enlightened but I've had these little tastes of other
No, it
dimensions.
wasn't like that. It was, for me, it was very gradual, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation taught me how to meditate, first of all. I wasn't a meditator. I wasn't meditating like ever since I was like growing up or anything like that.
Right.
So it sort of took me one step at a time to deeper and deeper level of meditating and getting into higher dimensions of life, of meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
Some states, like initially I was very confused, and then I was like not meditating that long either.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I increased the time and the more I was more tranquil and without any thoughts and things like that had happened. So I was enjoying it more and increased it. And then the quietude has taken me deeper and deeper into that level of being. That's
Mm.
kind of hard to explain, but that level is something total silence, total shut off, and eventually you lead up to um, not knowing your body consciousness. You
Mm-hmm.
take it to that level, where your outer form doesn't even exist.
Right.
I've gotten to that deeper and deeper meditative states later on, where eventually that took me to that point.
Okay. And I think when you say that, here's what I interpret, and I don't really know because I'm not you, right? But what if I've had a couple different, for whatever reason, this concept is up for me now. Because last week I talked to Swamiji, who was talking. He wrote this book called The Stillness Sutras, and it was about resting in that place of quietude, or that you merge and you have no thought, and when the thought comes, you kind of go back into no thought, and it's different than mindfulness. So it is really different than being mindful. The mindfulness practice. It's more for me when I like I'm thinking and I'm like, oh no, don't think, and I go back to um, just quietness, and I had probably 10 seconds of just and actually frankly I don't even know how long it was because I don't know if it was 10 seconds or 20 minutes or an hour. Like except I had my watch on, so I think it was somewhere between 10 seconds and 20 minutes. Like, I have no idea how long it lasted, but there was no thought in my head whatsoever,
Right, right.
which is very rare for me. so, and when I went into the void where I just closed my eyes and I just went, there's nothing. I went to look for my hands, they were gone. I went to say something, it was gone. Like I was just poof, disappeared. So when you talk about having like a no body, like I can't remember the exact words that you use, but
Body consciousness.
yeah, is that what you mean by body
Yeah,
consciousness?
you don't feel like you're in this form.
Right.
It's all that. How do I say it? Nothingness, no thing, that
Right.
void.
Yeah. And for me, it was black. What was it for you when you went
No,
into?
it's not black. It's very
Okay.
lit up. It's very bright.
Okay. Okay.
And also, it's almost like you're part of the sky.
Okay. Got it.
You know, it's bright, and the perception is very clear, and it's just unification of everything. Like you're part of that. You're
Right.
part of that no thing. It's energy. It's a
Mm.
movement of energy. It's a
Okay.
totality. Actually, we're all part of energy. It's all consciousness is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all part of that universal consciousness.
Mm.
So to tap into that universal consciousness is what it's all about. To find out you're part of it,
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming that and re-establishing your connection. That's what's all
Mm-hmm.
about enlightenment about, right? Isn't it?
Yes. I think you know what? Frankly, I didn't know. I mean, to be brutally honest, I would say that I walked into my spiritual journey saying I want to achieve my destiny and not even knowing what destiny meant aside from like the idealized version of where I should be according to my highest path, highest growth. That was my only goal. I don't think I have a goal or I didn't have a goal towards enlightenment, but I've just slowly emerged. I think I've been on this path for about the same amount of time, probably for the last 9 years or so, or 10. I don't even remember. Like yourself, history is kind of blurry for me. Like it's all blurred together. But yeah. um, so I don't even know where I was going with that. So I want to talk to you about, so when you went through this process, you talked about it being gradual. And then you've also talked about having, in the book, you talk about, physical, like there are physical challenges when you're actually merging with oneness. There was the challenge of integrating, like you said earlier, that your day-to-day life with this other form of reality that was there that probably seemed in some ways more real and more compelling. Tell us about like when, and frankly, after reading this, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be enlightened. Sounds like a
That's really something somebody would say. In fact, I had some people come up and say, well, gee, this entails all this. Why would I want to get enlightened? I'm okay with the life I'm leading, but it's not the point. The
yeah.
purpose of life is to tap it into that consciousness and realize you're part of it. And
Yeah.
that's what the purpose of life is. That's why we exist here. That's what this whole thing is about. The life is to know who you are,
Yeah.
what you're about. And to live with that highest potential and knowing is totally different from not knowing who you are.
Okay, so let's say you're a salesperson. You're trying to sell me on it. Because I'm still, and I don't know if I even need to be sold on it. But let's say that you're trying to, because it's really I read through and I'm like, oh, seems like she was really sick for a while. Oh my gosh, you can't. It's all the joy has been taken out of shopping. I like shopping, These are the kind of things
Well,
I've read through.
my kids to say that I'm like an oddball.
I know. So tell me why. And it sounds so stupid because everyone on a spiritual path seems to want to be enlightened, and that has never been my goal. I have this destiny thing,
No,
which I don't even know what that is.
you should see the thirst out there.
Yeah, people are dying for this, and now I'm like, I'm not even sure I want to go there.
Well, there's a lot of drive toward this, a topic of interest for many.
Yes.
That want to experience that. They want to know. But you know what? I feel that a lot of people are kind of got it a little bit. It's a myth. Enlightenment is something that, oh, we're going to stay in that cloud nine all the time, blissful life we're going to lead. I think that's something that people cooked up in their brains, and they think, and I think they're thinking that it's all great.
Right.
Hey, it's the purpose of life. We all will reach that point and we'll all will realize. It just doesn't mean it's something extraordinary that we are going to be over there and not live in this given life of ours in this world still, with all the challenges, with all the issues that we go through. The only difference is you'll know how to deal with life much better after you're experienced that, because you are in control. You're not ego driven any longer. You control. We were like, it's like something we have forgotten who we are and the capacity we have and the potential we have to drive this life, in a better way. And isn't that why all these people and gurus and teachers come about and say, hey, get enlightened. You'll live a better life. You'll have a better way of looking at things in general. And
I'm reminding of my that's an ex-boyfriend of mine. He said, "You know what it is? These people are telling me like, come on, get married. It's going to be great." And then I'm like, you're married and you're like, ah,
Exactly.
you had no idea what to expect with this marriage thing. Kind of
Similar thing. Yep.
yeah, similar kind of thing where it's like I
not,
think like people think of enlightenment as they have all these visual images of it. I think I do, which is like someone sitting on a hill being really peaceful, and it's like all about joy and bliss and unicorns and puppy dogs. So
no, never. Please, that's another thing I do with my talks now.
Right.
I make it clear that please don't think like that.
Okay.
It's a part of, it's like we're all evolving at a certain pace. There'll comes a time when we get that ability to transcend, to know who we are and to tap into that universal consciousness that we belong to that. That's all you need to know. That's what life is about. The purpose of life is that. It doesn't mean by no means that everything is going to be totally changed and we're just going to be, like you just said, sitting there in a blissful state in a cave, on the top of the cave, or in an ashram or some kind of a venue. You're just, meditating constantly. No, it's not. We're living the life we're given still. Look at me. I'm still living here, right? Yeah, there are ups and downs still I have to deal with, and the challenges I still have to face, just like you and everybody else out there.
Okay, so I'm now changing the whole thing to it's like getting an internet connection. Like somehow you didn't have a connection, or you had a connection all along. Actually, what it is, it's like how when they upgrade your bandwidth, you like just basically upgrade it. You're still connect. You were always connected. You've always been connected. It's remembering like, oh, I have an internet connection. I forgot that I had the internet connection. And then you're like, right. And it has all this bandwidth.
Exactly. That's how it is, really.
Okay, so
people
it's not
have forgotten who they are.
Okay.
They just put that aside and they developed this thing called ego, and we became ego driven. And we lived with that. Isn't that why all these challenges and the fear and anger and all these things come about? It's because we're ego driven.
Okay, so what happens to your ego and personality? I mean, let's say that prior you're like a grouchy prior to enlightenment you were like a grouchy, egotistical, whatever. Do you come out the other side and you're still grouchy and a little bit egotistical, but you have some form of higher conscious? Like what happens during the transition to your ego and personality?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, you lose the ego. You lose the ego when you transcend.
Okay.
When you transcend, that's the main thing happens is ego is no longer working for you. I mean, ego no longer is driving your life.
Right. It's no longer driving the bus.
Right. You're driving the car. You are in charge.
Your higher self is you.
Exactly.
That's okay.
It doesn't mean ego goes away and dies or anything. It's like a subservient to you. Ego will work for you when you want it to work. Let's say you're getting beaten up or something in the street or something. You stand up and you attack and you take control over what to do. And that's when you bring in the ego to take care of yourself, right? I mean, it's like just an example I'm giving you.
Right, yeah.
So things like that, when to use ego, when not, and it just sits there and helps you rather than driving you and taking over your life, It's no longer like that. You're in control.
Okay, so what happened to the aspects of yourself? So, what's the difference between ego and personality? Like, what's your felt sense of who you were before and who you are now after going through this process, this evolution?
I think it's more, I can define as you're more in a calmer level, that equanimity you're in, that no matter what, excitement, sadness, any kind of problems, issues, you're always in that equanimity state where you can handle either one in a same way. It's not something that you go down the dumps when you hear a bad news and you get overly excited with the good news.
Yeah.
It's that evenness is where you maintain that.
Do you
Which is
miss that though? Do you miss the oh, blah, 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 my daughter just got proposed to. Like, do you miss that piece?
maybe because I was never like that to a
Okay.
point where I was doing overly excited. But the thing is, it's really good to have that equanimity. You know why? Because look at life in general.
Yeah.
How many issues we have day to day and problems we face and challenges we face, and we are able to handle them in much better capacity, much better potential.
Okay, but I would miss stuff like I would miss being excited when my daughter got married, or my son just got into the college of his first choice, and I truly had sympathetic joy. I was so happy for him, and I was joyful for like a week. Like I coasted on that as much as I could for about a week.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Do you
But
miss that?
it's not like that. It's not like, I mean, I still feel contented. I still feel good with somebody's, having good time or having happy. And you always wish that for everybody, and more so for your family members, whatever they're. Yes, you're right. It is kind of difficult to go overboard and show your excitement to something like that. But I always managed somehow.
Are you faking it? Like, like how do you do it? Because in some,
hey, come on, what's wrong with pleasing others by faking it?
No, but does it arise as like a true joyful expression, or is it no? Okay,
there. That's definitely there. The true joyfulness. Maybe you're not expressing it the way others do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay. The joy is there, but it doesn't have that kind of
blissful nature, and you want to wish the best for those individuals that succeed, what have you. But the thing is, not necessarily you're showing it in that way of you had mentioned.
Okay, so here's my image of you when you're describing it. Here's my imagined version of you. You're like watching like a drama thriller, like one of those action-packed movies, and you're like, the guy gets brutally murdered, or like someone, and you're like,
I don't think so. Not quite like that. I mean, I get excited. I get happy.
Okay, all right. So it's not is it like I have friends who are on depression medicine, and they said that like if the peaks and valleys were like this, they're on depression medicine, and it goes like down to this really small band, which doesn't sound good to me. So is it like that, or is it something different?
No, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's pretty much even, I would say. I'm like, for example, I'm not really. There's ups and downs. For example, I do get kind of like down sometimes and sad at times, but I snap out of it easily because I know I'm in control. There's a thoughts, negativeness or negative thoughts don't retain with you too long.
Right, so you can they're more like Teflon. They come, they may stick, but
the transcendence changes everything. The way you're handling, because in reality, your true nature is what's directing your life. And divine nature. That's divine. How you will be able to tranquility. That tranquility is there. That peace is always you maintain within yourself.
Okay, so you have this peace and tranquility and equanimity.
You reflect that, and you radiate that most of the time.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's plus. Okay, that's my check on the plus side. I'd like to radiate that.
Why do people, when they see these enlightened teachers or gurus or sadhus, whatever you call them, when they are with them, how come they feel so good about themselves? Because they radiate that high energy field.
Right.
And that their consciousness is the state of consciousness they carry is much higher than normal, right? So when normal beings are with them, it lifts them up and makes them feel good being with those individuals. It's the same scenario when you get enlightened and you transcend to that point where you have this full of energy that radiates itself,
Okay. That sounds good.
yeah, calms people down. And like my daughter sometimes says, when I'm with you, Mom, I feel so good. That's what she
Mm,
says sometimes.
right.
And
Right.
that's true
Right.
because you kind of radiate that around the surroundings. And that's why do you think people want everybody to get that realization, that enlightenment? Because you make the world a better place to live.
Right.
It's,
Ah. Yes.
you're kind of, everybody's in at that state, and more peace is radiating. Right? Doesn't that make sense?
Okay, so okay, let's actually take the example of an ashram, right? Where you have like this incredible guru, like Amma, who you am I pronouncing your name correctly? Okay, who's like this beautiful presence. I mean, people. I went to see Amma in Bellevue, and I waited in line, and I got the chip, and I did everything, and it was weird to me. I mean, I love. She's very sweet, but I didn't have any particular experience, and maybe I was too close. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Who knows what happened? But I saw people just like, whoa, they were just like blissing out. They were
That I
just
don't believe. I mean, sometimes I think people sort of make it too much out of it. I'm talking about when you're with them, and if you perceive something much more calmer way of
yeah,
being.
she's definitely a calmer, and I don't
Yeah.
know what I would have been like beforehand, but there's like a mixed bag of people in that group, right? Some people blissed out, and I don't know what they were doing. Me going like, what's happening? Like so. I don't know if I'm a skeptic. I was more like I'm trying to open my mind, but I don't know what is
Okay.
happening.
A
Someone's
lot of people are like you. I
yeah,
mean,
and they like this guy had a tattoo on his arm with her name on it, and like
oh my
renamed.
goodness, where is this at? Where is
It's at
this at?
Bellevue. When she came to visit, he said, "I've been following her my whole life, and my daughter, she renamed me. My name used to be like John Gilbert, or something, and now my name is some name that I couldn't even pronounce. And then my daughter's name is this, and she told me to quit my job, so I quit my job. And I used to be a travel photographer. Now I'm a web developer because she told me to do that. And I was like,
That's a bit too much. That's a bit too
yeah.
much.
So I was like, what is happening here? I'm like,
Once you know what it is, this is another myth people have. People
okay,
think, I mean, enjoy being with these beings like
right,
Amma and everybody,
yeah,
and take what they're offering, because all these beings are here to uplift human consciousness.
mm-hmm,
Okay, and they give you tools, they give you what's right, what's not right, and they give you lessons to be learned and
right,
inspire you to
right,
raise yourself to
right.
higher consciousness. Nothing else. But people make them as like gods and chase them and stalk them and kind of like give up their homes and give up their lives
Right.
and follow them around. I've seen cases like
I
that.
love how you're calling a stalker. The devotee has become a stalker.
But I've seen things happen like that in my
Yeah.
time. These
Yeah.
people are so crazy that just think, oh, I'm going to leave. I know I want to be with that girl. I'm just going to go to the ashram and live there
Right.
and leave my family behind. Now, is that the right thing to do? I mean,
Right.
you don't do that. That's
Right.
just not why they're here for.
Right.
And you guys are making a big, huge
You
mistake.
mean the
That's what I tell them in
gurus?
my talks.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. Take care of what's in your plate first.
Right.
Function well.
Right.
It could be your career, it could be your homemaking, your wife, husband, kids, what have you.
Right.
Take care of that first. That's in the step in the right direction. Move on. That's moving in the right direction. So
Right.
why do you need to leave everything and just go around with these teachers and gurus and what have you? I mean,
Right.
please take, just like everybody else, these people are here to give us the lives, teachers for life. Just like we have teachers for professors for other things and this and that, alcoholics to
Right.
stop them from drinking, right?
Right.
And these guys are here to uplift us, to raise ourselves, to
Mm.
raise our consciousness
Mm-hmm.
for better living, better way of being,
Mm-hmm.
that'll do you good. That's what
Right.
they're
But they're
for.
not a god to tell you what to do
No,
and
no,
what not to
no.
do.
But some people just get carried away. They just sort of take it too much into it. I don't
Okay,
know.
so what I like about what I'm seeing about this whole conversation is you're fiery. Like you're fiery, you have an opinion, um and here's what I worry about. Okay, these are all my fears about enlightenment. So I
You, I'm so glad to be with you today. I like that. The way you're just very practical and you're asking
no,
all these.
I mean, I was just curious. Okay, so I talked to this one gentleman who I think is probably enlightened because I talk to a lot of people who I think are probably enlightened. I don't even know. I frankly don't know. I mean, sometimes I talk to them, I'm like, Like when they say a certain thing and then they don't act in accordance with that, then I'm like, I don't know what you're selling, but I don't believe in it. But there's certain people who this guy believed in his what he was selling, and like everything was so down, like neutered, neutralized down, that nothing ever affected him. Like I would say XYZ, and what I felt was is that on the receiving end it'd be like X X X X X Y Z Z Z Z, because they're like the that's what it felt like when I was talking to him, because it would just be this like kind of like listening, and like it, like I don't know if anything ever absorbed, and then finally like an XYZ would occur, like he would maybe hear it in his head, and then he would come back and say like A, B, C, and I just don't know if it was like a throughput issue or if this is what happens when you get enlightened, like you can't talk normal, or like you're in a different world. Like I don't know what was happening.
Who's this guy, enlightened guy you're
I
saying?
can't tell his name because I don't want to, but it was like everything was kind of slower, in a way that was off-putting, right? Like if you're living a real life, right, and you're interacting with people, and if you're like X X X X Y, like that's what I felt. I don't know what he heard in the inside.
No, like, can I say something really
Yes.
that I think that's like, I think people feel whoever is enlightened has to carry a demeanor that's like suitable for the public.
Yes. Okay. So do they?
Well, let me tell you, that's another myth.
Hmm.
That's the thing that they're cooked up in their heads. That's
Ah.
true. Look at me. Am I looking like that? You know what? Live your life the way you are. If nothing has changed you, laugh it out. Enjoy your life. The only thing is you transcend it to a point where you know who you are. Therefore, you're functioning much better and with much higher capacity and potential.
Okay, so you're not like like you're again. You present as like fiery, opinionated, strong. So like who
In
you
fact,
were.
become that way more so
Okay,
than
so were you like that before, or were you kind of like meek and
no,
quiet? Like were.
no. I became more so now like that than before.
Oh.
You get more confident.
Mhm.
You get better. You have a lot of knowledge. You gain that wisdom
Mhm.
of the truth. You're in control. Your true nature is taking over.
Ah.
You're helping out more, and you're supporting the world, people out there that need help. You're looking into a lot of ways to expand your way of being.
Okay, so your way of being
Giving
before.
out more.
Okay, so it was like all the good things or all the things were like
It's
amplified.
right.
Okay.
Amplified because you have all that energy within you. That inner energy awakens. Remember, I talked about it in my
Yes.
book.
Yes.
Because of that energy, you're full of life. You're no longer just sitting around like this and oh God, what am I going to do today? No. Every day is a new day to do a lot of stuff with your life.
Okay, so you have more. So that's a huge upside. It's like you make the very best parts of yourself amplified,
Exactly.
and you have like this incredible guide where you have kind of a
Right. And you have better insight and better intuition in life to do function well, and your intent gets stronger. Whatever you want to do, it manifests. So you're in better shape all
okay.
over.
All
But
right,
it
that's
doesn't
good.
mean by no means, please, make sure everybody knows. It doesn't mean you sit there and they saffron clothes, meditating all day long, or kind of like, avoiding the world, or just kind of like being a hermit either. Please
Right.
don't.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Got it.
no,
So
by
this
no means.
person who is probably, I mean, my guess, I kept on thinking, well, it must be that he was like that before. And so he's just like a more whatever. Like he was probably quiet and goofy when he was, before Enlightenment, and now he's just even more quiet and goofy.
Perhaps, yeah. And that they feel, and I've seen people that really feel if you're tapped into that source, you need to change your demeanor for the folks out there. You need to be different looking and different way of speaking and different way of being,
hmm
which is all not true in my
Okay. That's good because I've seen people who, I mean, here's the thing. I one time talked to a doctor, and he was a really old family physician. And I said, yeah, it's like when people get old, they're like, kind of seems like what happened is like women get all these, like they get crotchety and old and grouchy. And he's like, no, no. They were crotchety and grouchy when they were 20, 30, 50, and 80. Like they don't change. They're grouchy
Yeah,
disposition.
personality doesn't change much,
Yeah,
really.
that's that. And so similarly, I assume like wherever you're not going to change. Like if you were kind of a crotchety old like meh, 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 like you're not gonna come out like I'm all like oh like it's not gonna be like that.
No, no, no. No, your demeanor doesn't really change. It's just the way your inner transformation had changed. So you know better, actually. You know a lot more than you have known.
Okay.
And your level of being is you have raised yourself to much higher level of functioning well. That's what it's all
Okay.
about.
Okay.
And I mean, I go out, I still have fun, I laugh it out, and I enjoy great company, and I love what else? Like everybody else, I love that. In fact, I like to be more sociable than just sitting around in the house because I love to meet new people, new people that are out there, and I like to give and talk about these things as I have experienced myself to
Mm-hmm.
lift people up, give them advice to what they're into.
Okay.
That's what I do now.
All right, I like it. All right, so you're sold me. Where do I sign? Okay, but I'm
I
sure there's some challenging things, right? So you actually went through some physical things. You had to integrate with your family, your daughters, and I don't know if your husband, like you've changed. You're like I have changed. I mean, what are some other things that people don't tell you is along the path that people should know so that they know what to expect?
I would say each process is different for each individual.
Hmm.
When that inner energy wakes up, by the way, inner energy will wake up only when the soul is ready to transcend, when it's ready to reunite with the source, when you get that ability to move higher level and transcendence what can happen. That's when the inner energy wakes up to give you that push and to
Mm-hmm.
that extra energy. It's like a small 50-watt bulb as opposed to 200-watt bulb. You have that energy within you
Right, right,
to take you there,
right.
when you're meditating. So I'm sorry, I forgot your question now. You said, what other things?
I said, what are other things? Because you talked about like the physical manifestations. Like my husband is going through a very similar kind of path, and he's feeling like I think you mentioned this. You got heat waves. You also had like your heart had palpitations.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I had a
Plus,
blowout. I had stuff happening. Yeah. So what happened for you?
that's because of the inner energy. When it is awakened, this body is used to a certain amount of limited amount of energy that we deal with
Mm-hmm.
in day-to-day work or functioning, in our lives, right? All of a sudden, you have this high amount of energy. Therefore, all the organs and the system inside, the nervous system, digestive system, everything gets haywired.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know what's going on. Therefore, a lot of issues may come about
Mm-hmm.
physically. You'll go through issues like you don't want to eat, and whatever you eat, it just will not sit with you correctly, and you can't sleep because you have a lot of energy and a lot of heat generating when you're
Mm-hmm.
meditating. Because energy is heat, a lot of heat, and that will come and disturb your physical, and the impact varies from individual to individual. Depends on your constitution and everything. I did go through some of it, but nothing that I couldn't handle it. I know, yeah, initially I went through a lot of issues, like a lot of heat and a lot of pressure in my forehead where that Agna chakra is. Chakras are where we have chakras.
Mm-hmm.
They all start vibrating, and you can feel the vibrations internal.
Right.
The
Wow.
subtle vibrations, you can feel it. When you're really a deep meditator. So all these started happening to me
Mm.
initially, but they all subside as you progress and you're going up there and you're ready to reunite and we tap into that divine consciousness. They all subside.
That's
Eventually,
interesting.
everything calms down.
See, for me, my path has taken over like a long, an 18-year period. And there was a period where I would get really hot. And then there's periods where I would shake at night. And then there was periods where, like, I've just had all these little, I don't even know how to describe it. And now I still shake at night. But there are periods where I would get super hot. And then that period would stop. And
Yep.
I had one period where I had so much energy running through me. I just saw light, like it was just light. Everything was light, and I was shaking for like 4 hours, just light shaking, and that there was so much energy that I couldn't taste anymore, and I couldn't feel my face. Like everything was numb. But it's happened over a really long period of time. Versus, it sounds like you, it was kind of like kept on evolving. Versus me, I had these gigantic bursts of
First.
whatever, and then it kind of freaks me out, and then I try not to rescind, but I usually rescind back to where I was before. So to me, it kind of goes. That was my experience, and I'm not enlightened, but I've had those kinds of experiences before. But my husband has like the same kind of thing, like his heart was beating really fast.
Right.
So there are physical things, and then how about connecting with your family members? Because you said your daughters are like, don't you want to go shopping? These things that used to bring you joy, they don't bring you joy anymore. How
Yeah,
did you deal with that?
that is kind of difficult for me. Like I was telling you, being transcending is not something that you can always have. It has its share of downness as well, you know.
Hmm. Right.
Because like these, living, the hardest part for me is when I was going through all this, and how to handle my family members, please them as well, and kind of play my role, as a mom, and get excited and do things that they're used to, so that they won't pick on me, and they won't kind of like, I'm not standing out, oddball here.
Right. Right.
That was an adjustment I had to make and kind of deal with that situation a lot of times when I was going through the process. But I think I did pretty good. I mean, though I didn't want to go for dinners out with my husband, I used to go out for dinners and
Yeah.
mingle with people, because that's not something I wanted to do those days. I wanted to just be by myself in the house, meditate,
Hmm.
meditate, meditate. That's all that's on my mind. How to reach that point where I am completed, where I finish everything. And then I can kind of breathe, say, hey, I've done it all, I've
Hmm.
experienced that.
Hmm.
So my thirst and my drive was so strong those days. I didn't feel like doing anything else. No TV, no socializing, no shopping, like you're
Right.
saying. I never thought I needed anything. Those are the days that even now, after this realizing the self, you don't need much anymore. Your wants and desires go away.
Hmm.
Actually, you don't really think you always want, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this $2 million home, I want this Mercedes Benz car. No, none of those really face you anymore after
How
that.
about hot fudge sundaes? See, like I don't want a Mercedes car. I don't care about any of that. Like, I mean, yeah, that's nice.
It's like, you have it, it's fine, and you
Yeah.
don't have it, it's fine too. That's the equanimity I was talking to you about
Right.
earlier. That
Right.
evenness is always there.
Right.
You're not going after stuff like the way you used to when you're
Right.
ego driven.
Right. Yes.
You're no longer going chasing things. You're no longer wanting things continuously. And
Right.
that goes down. That subsides a lot.
Right.
So you live with that eventually. And it's no longer the main thing in your life any longer. If you
Okay,
can
so
live with it.
have there been times, okay, so something awful happened, what knocks you off of that place?
Something awful happening.
Yeah, no, what knocks you off? You're like in equanimity, centered, in
Mhm.
quietude, like that's your default settings. Like you came in with the default settings, you change your default
Right,
settings, you've added like higher bandwidth. um,
right.
what kinds of things are you, are there times when you lose that sense of peace and quietude, and how do
When
you
there
snap
is
back?
unjust is being done,
Mm,
that goes away. When unjust is being, if I see something being done, or if it's being done to me, right away it goes away, and I get angry. I get
okay.
really taken over. I stand up to myself.
Ah,
That's
okay.
the right way, and I can blow up as well. See, you get very angry because when you see somebody suffering, or when injustice is done to someone, or somebody's getting beaten up, or somebody's getting cheated, or something, you go for them. You
Mm,
attack them. You kind of come on strong with that. Even if it is for me, if somebody's mouthing up about to me directly, I'll take it. I'm in equanimity most of the time. But stand up,
mm,
stand them up.
okay. Okay.
Teach them a lesson,
Right.
and that's called how do you say that? It's that confidence, that there's a different kind of a confidence you get, different kind of a demeanor you bring about,
Mm-hmm.
to really radiate that.
Right. But it's not done out of like hatred or fear. It's
No,
done
no,
out of like, this is what needs to respond. This is how I need to respond to whatever is happening. Is that
it's not due to the hatred or what was the other one you mentioned?
fear?
Fear. No, not at all. No more fear, really. Fear is there momentary, maybe, or let's say a snake is right there. So, oh boy, that's there. But it's not, fear is no longer there. Come think of it. You're able to handle that.
Come to think of it.
Yeah, I don't fear anything. I mean, the reason I'm trying to think now when you're asking me that, do
Right.
I fear anything? I don't fear anything anymore.
Wow.
I really don't think, what is there to fear about? Life. I mean, I am, that divine. What can be so worse? What can be so bad? Even death. A lot of people are afraid of death. I'm not afraid of death. Once you know and you transcend, that goes away completely.
Right.
Because death is really being in that highest point of consciousness, highest fabric of consciousness. When you're in that silent void, no thing, you're already dying actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know? People just don't know that because they haven't experienced that. So
Mm.
they're always fearing, oh my God, when I die, what happens? My body, what's all this? They have that agitation, continuous,
Mm.
worrying about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get enlightened, you lose that completely.
Mm.
And I wrote a chapter on that in my book also. I think something about the death.
Yeah, you did. And so there's a period where I'm sure you don't get to the no fear place immediately. It sounds like it's an evolutionary path, like it evolves. So what
Yeah.
do you do in between where you are now and where you were, where it's like, okay, no, there's something greater. So I'm in some weird place. I don't know what the heck place I'm in. I know that I don't even know how to describe because I've
See,
had,
you're a great interviewer and you're there, you're doing your stuff and
yeah,
you're
like I have stuff that kind of, I have sporadic, great transcendental moments, and that may be up to 4 hours, or like
ah,
when I had my circuit blown for like, I was 4 hours just seeing light and energy. For about 3 months, I couldn't taste anything, I couldn't feel anything.
ah,
um, it was really weird. So I've had these initiations, and and I feel like I'm being called towards stillness, this place that you've arrived.
mhm.
I'm being called like, hey, do you want to come to go visit us in Realization Land? I'm like, I don't know, maybe.
Do you meditate
I
still
do
now?
meditate, and I told you how I had that 20 seconds or 20 minutes, I don't even know, of quietude. But I'll see a news report and I'll be like, what? Like the things. But I do think that I'm getting less reactive. But what kind of things would help as you're on this path to kind of bring you back to this kind of centered, realized place? Was in between when you realize and now where you are now? What were some things that were helpful for you aside from meditating, which I'm doing?
More with the nature,
Be outside in nature.
outdoors, and or the ocean view or water, where there's emit lots of cosmic energy. The cosmic consciousness is everywhere in the nature.
Right.
The trees, the greenery, and when I'm in the nature, I'm at that level. I'm so calm. I'm so tranquil. I don't have to meditate even.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. As if they're my friends. The trees and the garden and the flowers.
Yeah.
I really did feel that a lot of times. I think I mentioned that in my book as well.
Mm-hmm.
They become, it's something about outdoors I love. It's like I become part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do a lot of times. I
Yeah.
spend most of my time now, of course, I meditate always outdoors. And also, I spend most of my time outdoors only. I'm not in the house all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
either go for walks or I play a lot of tennis, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do, everything but outdoors, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
I love how you mention you footnote tennis, because I do think that there's a myth like you wouldn't play tennis if you're enlightened.
You see, that's exactly what I'm
I know, but it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense, right?
exactly what I'm saying. That's why my talks are geared to all these myths. I erase them a lot of times.
Okay.
People that have cooked up all these things in their mind. I say that's not the way it is. It's not so. Please, I've experienced it.
Right.
Listen to me. That's not the way. Play 2 sets of tennis. Enjoy the life. It doesn't mean
You can be enlightened and play tennis.
yeah. What is it? If you're enlightened, you can't play tennis. That's kind of stupid. Maybe they think, well, gee, this Sarada, what's she talking about? And you know what? Experience yourself, you'll see. It's that energy that you have. You want to do a lot of things with it. You can do a lot of things with it. Play tennis, go out, enjoy company, enjoy meeting like-minded people, and give talks and uplift other people that are in the same road as you are. You were. And help them out. Do a lot of things. I feel now I have little time and a lot to do. That's what it is. Very little time. There's a lot to do. I have so many things I could do.
That's
but
exciting.
That's how I feel.
At least you have the energy for it. Okay, we've been talking to Sarada Shiravulu, and we've been talking about her book, Home at Last. This has been so delightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, CJ. I loved it being with you today.
I love being with you too.
You're a great person. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll cut it.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.